Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, Donspektor here today with a surprise review. Yes, I have been fortunate enough to finally getting a TWS I've ordered because I was very curious and I like the predecessor. And this is one of the fastest reviews I've ever written, I have to say. And we will find out why. Because today we're taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy Buds 3 without white space. Yes, these don't have white space Pro. After I really liked the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro because they were tuned really well, they had a really nice overall balanced tonality to them, and the general feature set worked very well, the ANC worked well, like there wasn't much to criticize there, and that's why I ordered the 3, because I was like, hey, Samsung, like, now you use dual driver setup, 10mm dynamic for the bass and I think the mids, I'm not sure where the crossover is, and a 6mm planar for the treble. So I was like, yeah, great, this sounds like a good combination, let's order it. And that's what we have here. And as usual, packaging accessories first. I really got out the packaging for the Buds 2 Pro, so you can see this is basically the same. This is now a bit shiny, and you shake it open like this, if I can get it open. Yep, and then here you get greeted by the accessories, and here would be the TWS inside. Let's take a look at the accessories. The nice attention to detail. Here you have the flap, so you can just move it out. And when you open that like this, the manual is thick ass, and you will probably need it because there's a lot of functions. And here the accessories. Charging cable, that's the Samsung standard one. They use this since, I don't know, like the S21 or S20, something like that. It hasn't changed since then. And the ear tips, which are here in this, cardboard thingy. So nice that all of this is compostable or recyclable. It's just cardboard. There's nothing weird going on. And yeah, then let's take a look at the build quality. And that's the charging case, and okay, ladies and gentlemen, somehow this looks a bit cheap. I'm not sure why it doesn't feel that cheap, the charging case at least, so we start with that, but it somehow looks a bit cheap. This like shiny, like fake metal look, it somehow looks cheap to me. And what I do like though about is this transparent plastic here. That looks cool. I like the optics of that. And also when you talk about charging case, now you have an L and R indicator here. I like that very much. And on the back here, the pairing button and USB-C. What I'm not a great fan of, let's compare to the Buds 2 Pro, you can see the footprint of this is a bit bigger overall. Yes, it's a bit less thick, totally, you can see that, but I somehow prefer the slightly thicker structure over the bigger footprint here. And other than that, I assume this is a metal hinge at the back because there's a cutout here. Oh, and today when it's not like 34 degrees, you actually can feel it, it's metal. While this one is not cold to the touch, this is. So that's nice to see, so probably won't break on you in like reasonable time soon. And yeah, when you open that, it actually stays in place. There's a magnet at the back here, I assume, that holds it open, so you don't accidentally close it, as you can see. And yeah, this is a nice, satisfying closing mechanism. I just wouldn't say it's better than the Buds 2. The Buds 2 also stay open like that, and they also close like this, and they stay closed. So there isn't much of an improvement at all. It's just, yeah, now we have a different design going on. And other than that, I think that's it. Like one factor that I also wrote in my written review. The Buds 2 Pro, they stay relatively nice in here. There's just a bit of rocking around, but they stay relatively well, and they're super easy to insert. Here, the problem is, this sled thing is not the greatest decision, like, well, because this is like partly open here, you can sometimes just get stuck like this, or it doesn't really go in as it should. So really you need to align it relatively well, not super well, but relatively well, and then it goes into place. Also, the rocking around here is a bit stronger pronounced than on the Buds 2 Pro, so there's a slight downgrade here. And also the different like colors of materials here somehow don't look too great. Like this is just looking to me overall a bit better designed, because this, yeah, hell, it's all one color, like it all seems to be matching, and here somehow it ain't. Okay, then next let's take a look at the TWS itself. I will remove the right side. And you can already see the seam that is noticeable to the finger, like my fingernail is scratching it everywhere, like really this is not a good seam. And even compared to the Buds 2 Pro, which also had a noticeable seam, hell, here it's not as badly pronounced. Like yes, here at the top you can see my unit here is a bit borked here at this side, but otherwise, this is pretty well rounded, like not great, but okay. And this here all around is noticeable. You can feel it, you can see it. It somehow seems to be cheap to me. Like really, I have had other AirPod clones in terms of like how we look, and this is not better. Like this is definitively not on par, I would say, in my memory, at least with the AirPods Pro. This is definitely the worst build. And adding to this is again, the metal finish here. It does look cheap. Like, I don't want to buy something that looks like AirPods, that's why I went for this one. So overall, like yeah, I don't know, like also the plastic used here, while it doesn't feel too flimsy, it somehow is still a bit flimsy compared to the solidness of the Buds 2 Pro here. This somehow feels cheaper to me, and not just a bit cheaper, but generally cheaper. Which doesn't say the details are worse, because as you can see here, the microphone mesh, this is well integrated, like I have no problems with this. The infrared sensor, basically same level of integration as the Buds 2 Pro. And then you have this LED strap at the back here, which is totally useless. One of those things where I could have just left it out, saved some energy, saved some building space, maybe put a bit back battery in, but they didn't, and it is so useless. It doesn't do anything to me. Like, I have been using this since like 3 days now, almost constantly, and I just can't tell you what it's used for. It does some blinking and stuff, but why do I need this? Like, maybe if you need to find your buds and it's blinking, that might be helpful. But then it also makes noises, so why would I need that? Like, completely useless. And last thing, you can see here there's now a side indicator. This one is blue, so you actually will be able to just find your buds, like find the right side just by looking at them. And one thing that I can't show you now, build quality, is the front thing. We tackle the nozzle in the comfort section later, because there's something to talk about. But yeah, overall, as I said, like this does not feel too sturdy to me. It doesn't feel as solid as the Buds 2. And somehow I have the feeling you will probably be able to get better build buds at a lower price. And I'm not a fan of this build quality. It's okay, but why did you copy AirPods and then you didn't even copy them that well? Like definitively not feeling worth 250 bucks. Like maybe 70 to 80, okay, but not 250. And now we come to the how do I say this politely? I don't think I can. You fucked up, Samsung. Really, this is one of the biggest blunders I have seen in TWS history since I can remember. And yeah, we will tackle exactly the aspects. What is the fuck up? Why it's so bad? And like, I struggle with words here because it's not over exaggerated. But first, let's tackle the decent parts of this. Because yes, this is an AirPods clone, and that means it exactly fits like AirPods. In my opinion, this is not a good fit. This is not really ergonomic. This is just weirdly approximated how the absolute nobody's ear will look like, but it should fit you probably okay-ish. It's just not as good as most other TWS to me. And the other problem is, because this is such a shallow insertion again, yeah, with this design, you basically, you screwed. If your ear is a bit smaller, you can't fit it. If your ear is maybe a bit bigger, it will also be difficult. So it's just not a great fit. And the comfort to me is also only okay. Again, we come to a problem later, but if I wear this for 20 to 30 minutes, it causes me a light pain in my ear. Because, yeah, this the silicone here is just not the right size, and how this fits in my ear also is not the greatest. Again, I'm a bit sensitive here, so you probably should be okay in terms of comfort and fit. I just say, again, Buds 2 Pro with the right tip is far superior. Again, this is a downgrade. Like, I have no way of saying this. This is a downgrade in any way over the Buds 2. There's nothing better with this. And what I see sometimes people write, oh yeah, this additional stem here, it's helping in terms of, yeah, fit in your ear. It does not. It never did. It will never help you with the fit in your ear. This stem is purely there to fit some more electronics or antenna or something else in. It doesn't do shit. And even worse, because this is such a shallow insertion, you can see also here how deep this only is. If your ear is a bit smaller or your ear is a bit deeper, this will cause you pain. This will exactly press your ear here on the inside, and it will not be pleasant at all. And I really don't understand why you go back to the definitively inferior toothbrush head design. I just don't understand it. And this is not even the fuck up. Now we come to the big fuck up what Samsung did with the Buds 3 Pro, and this is literally its breaking point, because let me try if I can demonstrate it. This whole thing is one piece, so there's not a real nozzle here. This actually is a hard plastic piece, which, let me get a tip out so to show you what I mean. Let me get the L out, maybe that's probably easier to see. So you can see this inside here is a hard plastic piece that actually has glued on the silicone tip around it. And that means, first, this is not really squishy at all, because yeah, like it's hard plastic on the inside. And second, because the silicone itself is a bit on the thicker side, and while squishy enough, not the best squish, and the material also isn't the best silicone I've had, it generally is not that comfortable. And you have the problem because of this absolutely proprietary bullshit design. You can only fit Samsung's first party tips, nothing else. You can have the best tip at home, like as I have here now, Xelas X2. Small spoiler, we work great on this. You can't fit anything here. Like, let me see if I can remove it. And again, this is such a bad design because you need to pull the tip like this. There's no way to ply this open or ply this off at the back here. It just doesn't exist. So you need to grab the TWS like that and then pull it. And because this I have already been removing 3 times now, it actually went off kinda okay. But if you do it first time, you will really need to apply pressure to this. And I can guarantee you, if you change this tip 4 or 5 times, it will tear. The silicone is just not thick enough to survive this. And Samsung's second blunder with this is, the material thickness on the inside, where you would have the biggest strain here, is the same as it is at the back or at the front. They didn't even upgrade the material thickness inside to make it like actually better pullable. No, they did not. And that's why, if you look up reports on this, people tear apart their tips regularly. And this is not their fault, this is 100% Samsung's fuck up. Like, this is really the worst, and I'm not over-exaggerating, worst design for nozzles and ear tips I have seen in forever. And this is literally a breaking point where I say nothing of this makes sense. Because this being hard plastic and this being hard plastic, this is going to grind down, this is going to grind down, and eventually in a few years, nothing will fit on it because the actual the standoffs here, those will be ground off. And I can already tell you, after I've removed this a few times, this is now actually getting off. But this is not the solution. Like, you can't design a system that will grind down in 2 years and then you can't fit anything on. But if you get it, it's so difficult to remove that people tear off a tip. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Samsung? Like, I have no polite way of saying this. This is just the worst design ever. And this is the breaking point where, like, even if you are polite, this can't be recommended because ears are not 3 sizes. It's not S, M, and L. Like, have you ever seen shoes just coming in 3 sizes? It just doesn't exist. And Samsung thinks they can fit all ears with S, M, and L with an absolutely proprietary design that's the biggest bullshit out there. No, like, really, this is already absolutely out. Buds 3 Pro is bullshit from this sense. And because that's not enough, now we come to isolation, and things don't get better. The Buds 2 Pro, again, I can do an A/B comparison, and I did that outside, inside, wherever. Those isolate better passively, and the active noise cancelling is better. And I'm not even, like, this is not even just my subjective feeling. Soundguys, I will link their review below, they measured it, and they also found out the active noise cancelling is worse than the Buds 2 Pro. Like, seriously, this is one of those things, it's 1 step forward, because we talk about the details later, and 5 steps backward. There's nothing redeeming about the Buds 3 Pro in my book so far. Which isn't to say the active noise cancelling is bad. It's definitively good. And I have here, for instance, the Rose Techniques Ceramics X. Way more comfortable, completely out of this world compared to the Buds 3 Pro. But the active noise cancelling is not as good, like, not even close. The Buds 2 Pro, as I said, are better, but these are a bit worse, and this is still worse than the Buds 3 Pro. So it's still good, right? In everyday life, like, yeah, you will get most of the lower hum reduced. And I think somewhere in the mids or lower mid section, it might perform a bit better. Like, there's some part where I say, okay, these might perform a bit better than the Buds 2 Pro. But in general, as the whole, like, overseen over the whole spectrum, the isolation is definitively worse. Active and passive, the Buds 3 Pro definitively are on downgrade there. And I just don't know, like, why, like, how and why. Like, really, this is so unnecessary. And yeah, okay, But yeah, one thing I also wrote, it has this adaptive mode, which gives you a mix between transparency and active noise cancelling. I didn't find a use for it. I think if you are going through a city center with a bike or anything, or you're jogging, maybe it might be helpful. I don't know, but then you could also just use transparency mode, because transparency mode does not like amplify things over the surroundings. It just gives you like some transparency feeling. So I haven't found the use for that adaptive mod, but you might find a use case for it. I just personally haven't found it. So yeah, in day-to-day life, to sum this up, it's still decent. It just gets beaten by its predecessor easily in passive and active sense, and I'm not sure why Samsung fucked this up again. And then we come to software. And yeah, again, the next fuck up that Samsung did, and they still haven't found out that you can't just copy Apple, because Apple is also bad with the ecosystem. But you try to copy it as well, and that means good functionality with you, or like decent amount of functionality you get with the Buds 3 Pro, you will only get via the app if you have a Samsung smartphone. Absolutely unnecessary, because everybody's running Android, everybody's running similar Bluetooth chips, all of the Qualcomm stuff, it's all compatible. They just went out of the way and engineered the software so you can't use it on non-Samsung devices. Absolutely great again, and again, one of those points, like, I can't recommend the Buds, like one more of these points where I can't recommend them, because this is again just plain up stupid. But okay, yeah, let's take a software. What can you do with it? You can set the different modes, so like just passive, ambient, adaptive, and ANC. You can select 360 audio, which again, it's a gimmick. Like, it can be pretty cool if you have the right source material, but it's somehow useless if you're sitting in a computer. It's useless if you just listen to music at work. It's just a gimmick where you can print it on the packaging and find some mainstream tech channels that are like, "Boah, it's so nice, it's 360 audio, wow." But if you go into the nitty-gritty, it just doesn't hold up. Like, it's just not useful in everyday life. But what is useful? They finally gave us a real equalizer. Yes, it's no more the pop, rock, and hip-hop modes that you could select with the Buds 2 Pro. You finally get a 9-band equalizer. Unfortunately, no Q values, no different filters, so it's just a simple 9-band equalizer. But finally we get one, and that is really nice to see, so you can fix the Buds how you see fit. Also, you can select adaptive audio, which apparently does an auto EQ for your hearing. I have not tried that, because that kind of defeats the purpose of having a real good tuned IEM to me. And yeah, this is already a small spoiler here. It is really well tuned, but we tackle that later. And then you can select some parts of the control scheme. Unfortunately, it's not even close to being as customizable as, for instance, the Rose Techniques here, the Ceramics X. Here you can select every part, but this can be controlled, like a long press, double press, 3 times press. You can customize everything. Here you only can select, I think, 2 different versions, and you can only select between Bixby and something else, so it's not really that useful. Also, you can select the lighting mode. It has blinking, fade in, and continuously. Again, it's a gimmick. Like, this will just have some light here, but it just doesn't do anything to you. It's just a gimmick. It's completely useless. And then you have additional audio settings, which contain speech controls, ear detections, reading notifications, so like it will read out notifications to you, seamless audio, reminder to next stretch, game mode, updates, and you can select the balance between left and right. The latter definitively being useful, because some people have hearing deficiencies on one ear but not on the other, or both but differently, so that's useful. And also seamless audio in theory should be neat, but again we have a problem here, because seamless audio only works if you have a Samsung account and multiple Samsung devices. So it's kind of emulating what multi-connect or multi-point connect would be, which this does not support. Again, if you have multiple devices you want to use this on, forget it. Samsung tells you, no, you can't. And it's for this price, again, such a disappointment and such a missed chance. And yeah, the last 2 functions that I noted, finding the Buds. Basically, if you just place them somewhere like here out of the picture, you could play a noise and you will be able then, yeah, to just spot you on a spot to hear your earbuds somewhere, and you can just find them. Pretty nifty if you are yeah, not that well organized, and that's a good feature to have. And then lastly, tips in the handbook, so self-explanatory, like you have the handbook here digital and you have some tips. And there are some parts that I definitively would like to have improved with the Buds 4 Pro. First, don't force us to buy Samsung devices. It's completely ridiculous, it's completely stupid, it's Android, it is open source software for the most part, and everybody in the Android space could just use your buds with all of the features. Second, give us real PEQ. Why are we still stuck with 9-band EQ? Why are smaller brands doing this way better than Samsung? Like, haven't you figured out that PEQ is really useful? Like, obviously, if I see the tuning here, they definitively do DSP with this, so they have figured out that you need PEQ. They just don't think you as an end user will need it, and that's again very stupid of them. And then next one, high-res codecs. Well, if you are not again in the Samsung ecosystem, you fucked, bro. Because Samsung again thinks we just have Samsung scalable codec, but no LDAC, no aptX HD, no aptX adaptive. It's again just Samsung scalable codec, and that's it. And that means if you are using it on non-Samsung devices, you are stuck with AAC or with SBC, and those obviously are not the greatest codecs. And yeah, again, as I said before, multi-device support also completely missing, which at this price point is kind of unacceptable. But yeah. So overall, I would say software is giving you a decent amount of options, but again, it suffers through the Samsung thinking that you can copy Apple, which you can't, and artificially limit functions and not give people that would be possible just because you think you're Apple. And next we come to usability and use cases. I think at first I tackle use cases because while this definitively, as I said, is not the greatest ANC out there, it still does reasonably well, and I think it's a good travel companion if you can fit them in your ear, which again loops back to the bullshit Samsung did with the tips here, because if your ear is just not exactly one of these 3 sizes, which it likely isn't because ears are different, you're screwed. You just can't use it, it will fall out of your ear, it might cause you pain, it's just not a good design, and that means it's not the greatest overall travel companion you can buy. But it does this job fine. For sport, I would not recommend this, plain and simple. It lacks like a nice fit, it lacks like an additional fin at the back, it lacks like special tips that maybe have some double flange design or so it will fall out in sport, absolutely. But it does have IP57 waterproof rating. The Buds3 Pro had IPX7, so those will also be usable for sport. But yeah, I would not do sport with either, because also these lack the fin, so they also fall out. But yeah, again, continue use cases. For listening music at home, I think these are doing great. The tuning is really well done, and the details also, there's definitely an upgrade there. So if you would ask me what is the use case to have with the Buds3 Pro, it's actually an everyday commuting IEM, or TWS I mean. So it does this fine, not stellar, but fine, and yeah, that's the best use case. And in terms of usability, which is not the same, but similar, I think these work fine in the use case, as I said, as an everyday commuter. I did have problems with the wearing detection that somehow works a bit finicky with the Buds3 Pro. With the Buds2 Pro, I never had a problem with this wearing detection, always seamless, like I never had any issues. Here, sometimes when I use these, they just think, oh, now I'm no longer in your ear, and they stop playing. And I'm like, I'm wearing you, what's going on? And then it, like, literally, like, half a second later, it decides, okay, no, you're in my ear again, and I continue playing. I'm like, hey, why? But other than that, I think this is generally usability-wise, it's a good design TWS. Like, especially I like that the touch surface is no longer here or here at the back. No, the touch surface is now on the stem, and this has advantages and disadvantages. First, unlike the Buds3 Pro, where you accidentally press them when you just insert them or you want to correct the fit, yeah, you accidentally activate the touch surface. Here you don't, because you are pressing your IE or the TWS inside like this or like that, but never like this. Like, you don't touch the stem like that. So that means you never accidentally activate it. And because it's a bit difficult to tell if you have hit the touch surface, because Samsung also haven't thought that we could use this here to indicate where the touch is, because it's not the entire row, like it's not here, for instance. Yeah, the issue is now you just somehow press it, but you get a light click noise if you press it, so you know you've touched it. That is nifty, but the issue with this is basically now you need to touch your TWS like that in order to be sure you press the button, and that is just not the greatest design in my books. Problem with this is, for instance, you always need 2 fingers, and then you also need to press it, which makes it more likely that you move it in any direction you don't want to. It is not that bad, but still, I think usability here, there might still be improvement potential. Just don't put the touch surface back here again. This is just not nice design and you will accidentally press it. So yeah, usability overall fine, but not the greatest. And now we come to the star of the show, sound. And again, I will throw you on measurements done with my IEC 7.1 coupler, and I will give you the cold hard truth compared to the Buds 2 Pro. And let me first show you the measurement of the Buds 3 Pro. Yeah, that looks very nice. It's again very well tuned, like there isn't much to criticize overall, and everything I will tackle later on with this U-shaped signature, it's basically nitpicking. They sound really good, and I again think the planar tweeter I put in here is a big upgrade over the dynamic we had before, but yeah, more about that later on. As usual, starting with upper treble and extension here, and yeah, I think this is doing a decent job. It is not as good as pure planars or other planar tweeters I've heard, but it reaches like 12K to my ear or something like that before dipping. So that means you get some splash and sizzle, but you don't have the greatest details overall. It still comes off as a bit blunted to my ears, and yeah, pure planar sets definitely sound more detailed than this. But this is an upgrade over Buds 2 Pro just because it sounds way more detailed in the mid to upper treble department. Though again, if you go a bit further down, you can see it lacks the resonance peak, and this is probably an issue for some, but not for all. That basically means the coupler that I'm using here, it has a resonance peak at like 8K, that can also shift to like 9K or to like 7.5K, and as you can see by graph, this simply lacks a resonance peak. And that means some people will definitely have the feeling this comes off as even more blunted than it already is due to the lack of like really good extension. And yeah, that can mean that you will find this a bit like, it won't sound exciting to you, like it will just sound lightly blunted overall. Which is a bit weird because the overall treble trend here, if you look from 2K to all the way to 9K, yeah, it is a bit brighter than the Buds 2 Pro. Again, I just throw in the comparison between. So that means generally this comes off as pretty well detailed, as pretty well balanced, but yeah, also to my ear, what the lack of resonance peak does, it just introduces a slightly plasticky overall timbre. Like, I wouldn't describe it as like dampened or like that, but it sounds a bit plasticky to me due to a lack of resonance peak. And it's not a bad way. Definitely I have worn other products that sounded more plasticky than this, but there's definitely an improvement potential with the next generation. Just bring back the resonance peak a bit more. That definitely would work for, I think, more people than it won't work for. And then going further down, lower treble / upper mids, yeah, you can see this is definitely now a bit more aggressive. It's coming up a bit earlier, and yeah, at 2.5K you have the peak instead of 3K. And again, I think just the 3K peak is a better choice for most people. That is giving you the impression of still having a good amount of clarity and details in the lower mids, sorry, in the upper mids, but it doesn't give you shout most of the time. And this here borders to the region where I think some people will experience shout. Personally, I can't confirm this, like I don't have the feeling it's shouty, but I'm also not sensitive to shout generally. So again, like if you know you will be more sensitive to shouty experiences, this is not for you. This definitely will come off as slightly shouty. But overall, I think this is striking a good balance, and I think the treble sounds pretty detailed to me. And yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack, the vocalist, for instance, didn't sound the most natural to me, but it sounded very well pronounced, and it didn't disappear in the mix as it sometimes can happen with other TWS. So in summary, Overall-Treble, very well tuned, like there isn't much to criticize here, string instruments are well done, e-guitars work well, pianos work well. I just think, yeah, we should have a bit more extension past 10K and a bit more resonance peak at 8K / 9K, because that will help you with the perception of details. And then, yeah, we come to the mids, and yeah, as you can see, this is an U-shaped IEM. The mids are basically flat, and that means I really have no complaints here. The mids are full, they are well defined. Again, upper mids can be slightly hot, but overall, I think this is well done, and I personally have zero issues with that. Lower mids as well, I think the dynamic driver we're using here is not the greatest, but it gives you some of the pop that you want to have in lower mids when you want to listen to a bass guitar or growls. Those are still well pronounced with the Buds 3 Pro, and overall, again, zero issues whatsoever. And then you come to bass, and I think if there's anything I would recommend the Buds 3 Pro for, it's like the well-tuned bass. The bass itself starts, as you can see, below like 300 Hz, slow rise at like 300-ish, and then goes ever so faster, and yeah, peaks in the sub bass. about 8 decibels of gain, I noted, and that means it sounds really nice. It's very well controlled, it gives you rumble, it gives you still the kick drums you want, and I really don't have issues with the bass here. Mine is, as usual, but I think most producers don't really want or don't really know, yeah, there's sub-bass like texture that exists, and again, these are not the greatest there. In Interstellar's Mountains, this has a bass note that starts at like 2 minutes 10 and drops all the way to 2 minutes 16 to like exactly 20 Hertz or even below that, and a good driver is able to resolve and light rumble all the way to 20 Hertz, and this is at 2 minutes 16. So these manage 2 minutes 14, and then I still have not compensated for Bluetooth delay, so it's more like 2 minutes 13 and a half, which, yeah, it's not the worst, but it's also not the greatest. But at least you do get rumble, and the driver is able to give you some depth here. It's just not the best. But overall, as I said, tonality-wise, this is really well done, and I have no issues whatsoever. Now come the other technicalities. Soundstage layering and imaging, and I have to say, pretty impressed by this. Like, the Buds 2 have a pretty decent soundstage for a TWS. Probably the best I've heard, like definitively beating the Buds 2 Pro. And also imaging is spot on, but yeah, with the planar tweeter, it's not so much of a surprise if you ever heard planars. Although layering again is, like, it's 3 layers most of the time. It's the middle blob, it's the left blob and the right blob, and only really occasionally in some of the fusion jazz tracks I listen to, you get 5 layers. But it's really only very occasionally. So I would say it's more like 3 layers most of the time. And then separation, dynamics, and coherence. And again, like, this is an upgrade over the Buds 2 Pro. The separation definitively is better done here. And that is probably again due to them having 2 drivers, which most of the time improve separation. But yeah, I think this is a pretty well separating IM. So you can separate individual notes, individual instruments lines in a better mixed song. It's possible, and it sounds pretty damn good. Dynamics, on the other hand, I think they're okay. Like, it's again has the slightly plucked characteristics if you have like treble notes, probably due to the planar. But overall, I think the dynamics are still decent, and the coherence is also pretty damn good. Like, it's not the greatest, as I said, probably due to the lack of resonance peak. Like, comes off as a bit more plasticky than other planars would. But overall, it's actually very well done here. And yeah, coherence and timbre I don't think is that much off. Again, you can hear the pluckedness of the planar, again, probably aided due to the lack of resonance peak. But overall, I think this is, yeah, overall, the technicalities here are pretty well done. And in every aspect I can think of, minus dynamics, probably an upgrade over the Buds 2 Pro. And then that brings me to the verdict. Yeah, as my title indicates, I cannot recommend in a polite way the Buds 3 Pro. This is really 1 step forward in terms of technicalities and 3 steps backward in everything else. This is really the biggest blunder I have seen from Samsung in a long time, minus the Note 7 that exploded. But really, like, there's no redeeming quality about the Buds 3 Pro. Like, I see exactly 0 reason to buy this over its predecessors. Like, there just is none. And even worse, the system with the ear tips here is absolutely catastrophic. Like, this is so bad. This should have been stopped right on the design stage. Somebody should have noticed with the first prototype, this is bullshit, and they should have never brought it to actually like a production line. And yeah, that's why if you look it up, you find numerous reports already now that say, oh, I destroyed my tip. Like, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. Samsung fucked up. And then we still add that the comfort actually due to the system and due to the lack of sizing you get, and the general shape is not the greatest. And yeah, then also combined with the isolation, which is a downgrade, and the ANC, which is a downgrade, really, there's no reason to buy the Buds 3 Pro. And unlike most actually not so well TWS or in-ears that I buy, but I still keep for some time and then sell later, this will absolutely go back. This is just too bad in every aspect. Like, there's no redeeming quality about this, and I can only recommend, if you want a good tuned TWS, get the Buds 2 Pro. They have a better overall balance to my ear, and they will work for more genres, while definitively coming off as less detailed than a Buds 3 Pro. But again, you do this at the trade-off of this fitting worse, of this having an absolute bullshit system, of worse ANC, and with better usability. So no, this cannot be recommended, and it will straight go back to Samsung, and yeah, that's it. If you have questions, if you have recommendations, if you have criticisms, please leave a comment. Donspektor out.